What Does a Book Back Reviews with Jake, where I just got done watching The Suicide Squad. The Suicide Squad is the sequel to the 2016 film with a very similar name, in which we have another ragtag group of criminals out-contracted to do some good in the world. Before we get started, can we please stop with the movie titles? I feel like it's 2002 and I'm in a Sum 41 music video.
These names are not cool. What's in now is the. Okay? The Strokes, the Vines, the Hives, the White Stripes, the Led Zeppelins, right? Are you feeling me?
I can't imagine I'm the first person to make that poll, but if I was, go me. I needed that win today. Who also needed a win was James Gunn, the writer and director of this movie, who really only found himself in position to helm this film because he found himself in deep water with his parents over at Marvel. We all know the story, we read the news, I'm not gonna rehash it for you, but I will say that I'm happy for him for getting this gig. Look, there's no debate. If Marvel and DC are in competition with each other, not saying they are, not saying they should be, but if they are, Marvel's winning. And here come the YouTube accounts with Batman logos blowing up my comment section. And to them I say, thanks for commenting. I heard it helps my channel. But to see one of Marvel's cherished directors get the boot from mom and dad over a tweet that happened well over a decade ago is pretty ridiculous. But when he basically said, all right, you then, and immediately go over to help the other guys, the competition, well, we've officially transcended ridiculous and moved into hilarious. Yes, Marvel eventually took him back, but under the sole condition that he could finish his new #1 priority over Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, and that was this film. I love it. I f***ing love it because there's so much petty, passive aggressiveness in every aspect of this ordeal, and who benefits? Us. Because what does he do when he goes over to Warner Brothers and DC? He makes the most un-Disney and Marvel movie imaginable. And the pros start right there because this movie is rated with a heavy R and I loved it. Let's begin with the violence and the gore because this movie spared no expense on blood. This is a brutal movie. It holds no punches, like a comedic, ridiculous level of blood. And some levels that were really messed up and dark, like something out of a horror movie, which I was not expecting. This is a very adult movie through and through, and the vulgar humor was set to match. This is a very self-aware, silly movie. I mean, it's the James Gunn special. It captures all the comedic spirit that we were all hoping to get from the 2016 Suicide Squad. I will say that during the first act, I thought they went a little overboard, just a little bit. I mean, I don't have virgin ears. I like a good as much as anyone. But in the first like 20-30 minutes of the film, it almost felt like the actors just learned that they could say as much as they want, and then they abused it. A trap that I've personally fallen into acting in one of my movies where I'm watching it back in the editing room like, wow, did I really say it that much? It feels forced, and at some times this movie does kind of feel like it's just screaming, we're a superhero film for adults. And don't you forget it. Thankfully, it faded and balanced out a little bit over time, or I just got used to it. I don't know. Either way, it's a forgivable and justified offense because all of the cast in this film, the whole ensemble, all crushed it. John Cena was the standout for me. I mean, that guy is really funny. I really wish he would find himself in more comedic roles that aren't playing with fire or whatever. I mean, he's got the chops for comedy. But then there's like Idris Elba having fun, who's not typically known for being funny in movies. Joel Kinnaman, who was in the first film as Rick Flag, returns here. Not a very fun or funny character, but he had his fair share of chuckles here. Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, once again, crushes it. Less of a surprise, but still holds up. I could seriously go down the cast list on IMDb. Everyone on it did a great job, turned in some very fun, enjoyable, and memorable performances. Another memorable aspect of the film were the action sequences. I found them all very well executed, very fast-paced, hard-hitting, very creative. However, this same creativity did shoot the film in the foot a little bit, which does lead me to my very brief list of cons. I think at times this film went a little overboard with the effects, the graphics, the visual choices, the implementation of text and titles, working them into a shot in very unique ways. Well, yes, pretty unique and creative at first, it eventually got a little repetitive for me, especially when it's in situations where I just didn't think that a title was necessary. They also made a lot of other questionable stylistic choices that I didn't always agree with. Super overexposed backgrounds in some sequences, flowers flying all over the place in others, face replacements. I mean, a lot of it was just really weird and out there. I mean, that was this movie. It fit the tone. It wasn't completely out of left field, but a lot of it just kind of left me with my eyebrow raised. My next con is pretty standard with ensemble films like this, and that's having this wide array of characters not having much for depth. Thankfully, this massive group of characters thins out throughout the course of the film, which helps distribute that screen time a little bit easier. But even so, I still didn't find myself really caring much for any member of the team. The closest thing to have any resemblance to character meat was Polka Dot Man and Ratcatcher 2. While these two characters gave us a little bit more than all the others, it still wasn't much more than surface level emotion, which is fine. I mean, this is already a 2-hour movie. The only thing they could have really done to make this aspect better would be to make the movie longer or get rid of some of the comedy to make room for some more heart, which please don't. I think that's what made his first Guardians of the Galaxy movie so special. I mean, it's technically an ensemble film, 5 members of the team, but still found a way to balance all of them and give us some real meat on the bones. I mean, I was close to tears at certain points in that movie, while simultaneously giving us a lot of really good comedy. I mean, that movie really was a unicorn. Not having any real depth in an ensemble film is okay. In fact, it's expected, as long as you compensate it with something else. Which I believe this movie did with the comedy and the ridiculous over-the-top nature of everything that happens. Which leads me right to my final con, a very similar con, is that the antagonist was pretty generic ass. They've got a couple different fires burning in the bad guy category. You have Starro, who's in the trailer, the big bad guy. Then you have a lot of small bad guys who have big bad plans for the big bad guy. Starro is a very seismic threat, very interesting, but at the end of the day, he's basically just a kaiju, a big monster. And the little bad guys, their motives are pretty standard. Money, power, leverage. None of these threats really brought anything compelling to the table. They were basically just there to give our squad something to punch at and occasionally eat. All in all though, I really enjoyed this movie. It is a vast improvement over the 2016 film. It's a very refreshing installment in the often one-noted DCEU, which I hope continues into the future. I'm going to give The Suicide Squad a B+. But that's just me. What do you guys think? Let me know if you agree or disagree in the comments below. And make sure to subscribe to this channel to stay up to date with new reviews coming real soon. Stay safe, thanks for checking in.